What kept you?
Hey, buddy, watch this.
Yeah, if bombs have got you down, we've got some answers in this video, along with some other tech cards to counter all the different annoying sorts of things you might encounter in the game. And in fact, there were so many amazing cards. This is just part one of our tech cards spotlight. We've actually got 10 more coming up soon, but let's go ahead and talk about these 10 fantastic tech cards. So up first here from Beastie Hedgehog, we have an incredibly clever card. It's Misconstrue Taxonomist, a 6-mana 3/6 neutral that randomly assigns a new tribe to all minions in both hands and decks. So every minion in the game that's in a deck is going to get a random tribal assignment. I think really they're called races in Hearthstone, but I think we can understand what this card's intent is. So things like Murlocs and Mechs and Beasts and so on and so forth. Which is a fantastic fantasy because her name is hilarious. She's a taxonomist, somebody who assigns, genus and species and all these different sorts of things, classifications for creatures. But her name is Misconstrue, a play on the word to misconstrue it, to get it wrong, to mess it up. So really, really clever there. And fun tech card because essentially a deck that's like, say, relying on Murlocs, like Tip the Scales Paladin is already showing up in Savers of Doom. This would disrupt it because suddenly you wouldn't have as many Murlocs in your deck. You might have some Beasts and Mechs. So you can really fundamentally alter some people's game plans. Now, that said, this does come down on turn 6, so a Tip the Scales Paladin could already beat you, but that's a good balancing component because essentially you don't want to be able to just destroy all racial synergy decks like that in Hearthstone. It's better if you can kind of disrupt them maybe later in the game. You wouldn't want to be able to do it immediately. So a fun idea also can mess with things like mechs in, Control Warrior, for instance. A handful of different applications. I'm sure hunters wouldn't love their beasts being mechs all of a sudden, but it could occasionally backfire too, right? Like maybe adding mech synergies to stuff is good for a deck randomly, or random beast, random Murlocs, who knows? But mostly it's just the chaotic element. And you could even use this offensively a little bit too, like trying to build, your own synergy decks that may not otherwise be possible. Just giving Murloc to a random legendary minion or something could be kind of handy. If you have a Tip the Scales Paladin yourself, maybe you run just big minions, you make them Murlocs, then you summon your Murlocs, right? There are some fun sideways applications for this card, which I like a lot. Instead of just being a specific counter, it also has some intriguing applications of its own. So that's a really, really cool design. Great fantasy and name. A+ card. Moving on here to a card from Bahab the Warrior, a 3-mana 1/3 neutral that is apparently all tribes. I don't think that's necessary for this card, but hey, it's clearly some kind of science experiment, as you can see. It's got a lot of stuff going on. So I guess that's just a shortcut for a card like Nightmare Amalgam. But it also has Divine Shield and Rush. And then finally, whenever this minion triggers a secret, add a copy of that secret to your hand. So clearly a secret tech card in a way. And I love the idea here that you've got this just abomination of a creature that is a willing test subject. He's excited to go out there and just figure things out and test it and succumb itself to whatever your opponent might have in store behind those secrets. And because it has Rush, it's able to trigger a lot of different secrets right of way. I might have even given this card like Charge, so you could even test some face secrets as well. But because it does have Divine Shield, it's going to survive to a lot of handful of different secrets as well. So it's this cool idea of a card that can just kind of go out there and figure it out. And then once it does activate those secrets, you get a little bit of resource generation added to your hand. Now, clearly a 1/3 with Divine Shield is not the best minion for 3 mana. It's kind of a flipped Scarlet Crusader, but it's got Rush as well, so it does have some applications. Plus, you can run it in just about any synergy deck. It could be mechs, beasts, etc. because of this all tag. So I just like the idea of this this crazy little hamster with tentacles. It's a hilarious image, great artwork choice, that's going out there and throwing himself into those secrets to figure out what they are. Who knows what's going to happen? Maybe he'll grow another tentacle, maybe not, right? But it's a fun idea and a cool execution of a way to answer secrets that's a little more exciting and interesting than what we've seen in the past. So moving on here to the Careless Electrolyzer from A Mage Old as Dirt. It's a 4-mana 4/4 for Shaman with a battle cry. Give all cards in both players' hands Overload. Little grammar error there. I think players should have the apostrophe after the S, but willing to overlook that one because I like this idea and mechanic a lot. So first off, Battlecry synergies for Shaman. Obviously, that's something we're seeing right now in Saviors of Old Doom, but beyond that, some Overload synergy applications too. So this card can be used proactively on its own as a resource for you. If you're in an Overload deck, you got something like Vicina, and you just want some Overload synergies, this could really increase that. It does come with the downside, of course, that you're spending a lot more mana and kind of delaying your mana over multiple turns, but there are some clear advantages to Overload synergies. Now, beyond that, it can also be used as a tech card, specifically, I think, against two kinds of things. One, if your opponent has a game plan where they are trying to play a lot of cards regularly, or they're just dumping their hand of a ton of small stuff, think like Mana Cyclone Mages, for instance, this can really punish them. If they play 5 or 6 cards in a turn, they're going to be overloaded enormously in the future. So a great answer to those, like, you know, just machine gun card playing sorts of decks, maybe even like a Nomi Priest that's drawing like 10 cards at once with an Auctioneer. This really hurts those a lot. Beyond that, this also creates some problems for decks that need to use something like a 10 mana combo on a future turn. So if you've got like a full 10 mana combo, whatever it is, like some Mechathune deck or just some Malagos shenanigans, whatever it might be, if they need the full 10 mana, that means they wouldn't be able to play a single card the turn before, or they'll be overloading themselves. So if you can line this up, you make your opponent like pass 10 mana, just give up an entire turn in order to pull off a future combo, or alternatively just never achieve their combo because they can't ever get to full 10 mana because they're playing cards, and that is until at least they play out their entire hand of stuff from the Careless Electrolyzer. So a couple different applications for this thing as a tech card, which I really like, is that it can answer two different sorts of game plans and still has synergies for Shaman. For the record, I think this card's like really, really powerful, maybe like too good. I would probably tweak the numbers a little bit on this one to make it feel better personally, but nonetheless, the idea, the artwork, the name are all A+, so good card despite any of those little nagging flaws. Next up, let's take a look at the Mirage Seer from Spark and Arius, a 3-mana 3/4 neutral. After a minion is summoned from a spell, destroy it. So we have an answer here to minion summoning shenanigans. Think about, say, Conjurer's Calling for Mage. Mirage Seer would kill both of the minions because you destroy the original and 2 new ones are summoned. And this is a turn 3 play, so it can answer those mid-game Mountain Giant stuff perfectly. Think about like Power of Creation for Mage, right? Even Secret Mirror Entity stuff is summoned from spells. Mirror Image is summoned from spells. Anything that's Mage minion summoning is perfect. But also cards like Animal Companion, for instance, for Hunter. Hunter has a lot of different ways to get minions from spells. So this does answer a lot of different stuff. Now, sometimes it's just a 3-mana 3/4, and a lot of decks wouldn't really be punished by it because they'd just be dropping minions, and you might be sad that you didn't get the full potential on this, but it also has a lot of answers. And even if it doesn't like guarantee those things are going to be killed, because it is a proactive play, you don't do it reactively, so you can't like sit it out there and just guarantee you're going to kill your opponent's Mountain Giants. They'll have a chance to react to this, to answer it, and then play their Animal Companion or Conjurer's Calling, right? They have a little bit of choice in the matter. Nonetheless, this disrupts them, it slows them down. You can use this in targeted turns and moments so that your opponent can't do what they want when they want to do it. And that might give you more time. So although it won't always destroy stuff unless your opponent's just not paying attention, in some cases, it'll just disrupt them enough that it won't matter, and it'll lock out their turns, create enough friction that you'll gain enough advantage to make this card worth it regardless. Now, also for this card, I think there's some neat applications. You might be able to use this yourself in some cool ways. If you have like Death Rattles you want to activate that you can summon minions off of spells, think about like Priest, Reborn stuff, maybe. There are ways Mirage Seer could be pretty fantastic there too. So not only a defensive kind of tech card, but also another use case. That's a good design in my mind. So a lot of cool stuff here, answering what I think is probably a pain point for a lot of people in Hearthstone too. That makes it a good tech card. Moving on here to Sea Witch Helya, 6 mana 5/5 from Sleepy Kitty Aura. With a Battle Cry, summon a Death Rattle minion from your opponent's deck and destroy it. And at first glance, you might think, whoa, why would I want to do that? Usually, my opponent's Death Rattles are going to be good, and killing Death Rattle minions isn't usually a great thing. Like, you don't normally like that. They're going to get some value. I'm going to pull a Mechanical Whelp and summon them a 7/7. That kind of sucks. But there are some combo disruption potentials for a card like this, right? So think about Mechathune, for instance. You could pull Mechathune from your opponent's deck and destroy it before they get a chance to utilize their combo. So that might be just single-handedly an answer to Mechathune, and maybe that's the only reason a card like this would need to exist. But also, if you think about it, some Death Rattle minions still have all of their value bundled in their top half, or most of it, or you can pull it out at a time when it's less relevant or less important or doesn't set up some kind of combo or synergy that your opponent's trying to utilize. So you can still disrupt their game plan with a little bit of risk bundled in. And then maybe like Mechathune decks start running like a Karen Bloodhoof just to counter the Sea Witch Helia. And there are all these fun interactions that happen when it comes to deck building and stuff. So a card I wouldn't expect to see every day by any means, but certain metas, certain situations could call for this as an answer. So it does have applications. And also, you know, in some cases, maybe it doesn't pull anything at all. If your opponent doesn't have Death Rattles, and you've just got a 6-mana 5/7, which is not great, but it's okay, right? So a fun tech card that probably doesn't have a lot of use cases at the moment, but nonetheless would be a good one to exist in the game. Up next here is Living Mana from Nilaku. 5-mana 3/7, elemental neutral. Your minions cannot be frozen. I love the idea of this. This guy's so hot on board that he's preventing allied minions from being frozen, right? He's just emanating a lot of heat, so freezes just don't work. Like, that's a really cool story or theme for the card, but also a relevant application in the meta lately. We've seen a lot of things like Frost Novas and Blizzards with mages, and those can sometimes just lock out boards so that you're just stuck and you just can't do anything. Living Lava would be a great tech card for that sort of scenario. Now, granted, I don't know that most decks would like run this necessarily to counter Frost Novas, but just random generation of elementals, random generation of 5-mana cards, those kind of things happen. Think about like Conjurer's Calling on a Ziliax, you know, it could give you a Living Lava in a Mage Mirror match that could prevent you from getting Frost Nova'd, and like boom, that wins you a game occasionally. So although I doubt this card is like good enough to be played in most scenarios, unless the meta just goes hyper mage, which who knows, that's always a possibility. Nonetheless, its existence is cool for the game. So great option to just be in pools of random summoning and off of random effects. That's cool anyway. Some pun intended there with the cool. So Living Lava, a great tech card just because it's there, not even if it's competitively viable necessarily. Moving on to the Holy Exorcist from Rafam's Apprentice, a neutral 4-mana 3/4 with a battlecry silence all reborn minions. This is not necessarily something I think that's necessary today. We do see some things like making Mummy's Paladin getting there with reborn cards. There are a handful of good reborn cards outside of that. And I guess it's just good to have an answer to that in case that snowballs out of control. So will this be printed at this point? No, probably not necessary, right? Because Reborn's going to be a 1 expansion mechanic. Should a card like this have been included in the set? Perhaps so. It's so understated at 4 mana that it's a sacrifice to run this. It's not like every deck would be tossing this in, but occasionally just as a check to the meta to keep some kind of semblance of a lid on Reborn's snowballing out of control, I would like to see a card like this just added in the set. Make it fairly weak for its cost, make it unreliable, do something to keep it from, completely ruining your new mechanic. Like, you don't want it to be so good that it ruins Reborn, but just a possibility for the random guy who's super annoyed at Reborn minions or is in a pocket meta where they just keep running into Reborn stuff. Maybe he's a tech card for like specialist formats in Hearthstone tournaments, although I guess we're moving away from specialists, but nonetheless a tech card of some sort for tournament scenes. All of those reasons would be good for something like Holy Exorcist to exist, as long as its power level is kept in check, and I think this is a fine example of that. I might even just make it like a 3/3 or something, or maybe just bump it to 5 mana. Whatever the case, just capturing an answer to Reborn is cool as long as it's within reason. So moving on here to Plague of Amnesia from Imaginary MDA, a 0-mana priest spell that makes both players forget all minions that died this game. And I guess this doesn't mean the players themselves, although this happens to me anyway. I often forget what's happening in a game. But here we've got an effect that makes the heroes, the game itself, forget, so that you cannot resurrect stuff. Essentially, this would remove things from the resurrect pool. And although this wording is a little more clever than clear, I think that actually suits Hearthstone's design very well. That's usually how the Hearthstone devs actually word things as well. So if you didn't understand what that meant right away, don't fret. That sometimes just, we got to figure it out. And that's what this one would mean. So for instance, Barn's Priest, you could play this against a big priest and they would forget to res whatever came off of the barn. So it wouldn't be there in the resurrect pool. Now, I will say I found it a little odd that Imaginary put this in Priest itself, so you'd only have Priest answering the Priest res pool problems. I find that a little bit awkward. I would have almost rather seen this in any other class than Priest, but nonetheless, the fact that it captures Plagues, a mechanic from Savers of Doom, very well. It captures an effect I think we'd all like to see, which is an answer to res effects. Those can be very, very annoying to deal with. That's really, really cool. So artwork, name, effect are great. Maybe just class, I'd tweak a little bit there. Maybe Imaginary will share in the comments why he went that route. But nonetheless, I think a very cool idea and a card that many, many people would be relieved to play. So up next here is the Strategist Saboteur, a 5-mana 3/6 that reads, players cannot shuffle cards into their decks. And this one comes from Sumufu Boy. And clearly, anybody who's been playing against Bomb Warrior for the last few months is going to love a card like this one. Just don't shuffle bombs in my decks. You just can't do it. I guess this would mean that it fizzles, like if your opponent still played like a Clockwork Goblin, it would try to shuffle and it would fizzle. It wouldn't prevent them from playing the Clockwork Goblin, of course. So a pretty neat idea here. Now, I will say, as far as tech cards go, this one's a little bit passive and reliant on good timing, which makes it probably rather weak competitively. But don't think about just bombs in a scenario like this. There are also certain combo decks and other shenanigans that can happen with shuffling where Strategist Saboteur could be much more carefully timed. Think about, like, this is a bad example because it's probably not good, but Shadow of Death, the new rogue card that shuffles stuff in, we used it with a Desert Obelisk combo deck where I played Myras, I emptied my deck, I shuffled in a bunch of Desert Obelisks and used that for an OTK, right? Strategist Saboteur, somebody had dropped this the turn I played Myras and was trying to shuffle stuff in the turn after. I wouldn't have been able to shuffle my stuff in. I would have been slowed down a turn. I would have had to deal with this minion. My whole game plan basically would have been disrupted. And that's a possibility. Like, say against a Control Warrior getting ready to drop Archivist Elysiana. You know they're on fatigue. You know it's time for them to drop it. You slam this, and then you maybe buy yourself a turn with the fatigue, finding lethal, setting them up, stalling them out, whatever it is. You can still play this in a way that makes it less casually tossed out there. Because, you know, if you just play this on turn 5 on curve, they may not want to shuffle bombs anyway. So that's probably not ideal compared to some ways to execute a bomb disruption, but because that's not the only shuffling that happens in Hearthstone, I still really like this card's approach. And then finally here we have the Motorized Replicator from Kitten Gwyn, a 7-mana 4/4 with Taunt and Battle Cry. Magnetize a copy of each enemy mech onto this. Now, I'm a little shocked here that Motorized Replicator is not a mech itself. It seems like based on the artwork it should be, but perhaps this artwork is capturing the post-magnetized version, and it's just like a little energy ball or something that mech's attached to. So I'm trying to let that slide. It bothers me a little, but I like this answer to mechs so much that I'm willing to let it go. Now, the Motorized Replicator, essentially, if your opponent has a bunch of mechs, right, you're just going to copy them all and make this a giant thing. And occasionally you might do things like magnetize a Ziliax on here, which gives it rush and lifesteal, which would be amazing. Frankly, even just a Ziliax is going to make this a 7/6 with rush and lifesteal. That's probably worth it for 7 mana right there in many cases. But if your opponent's gone crazy wide with mechs, then you can get a lot more stats than that and do some silly stuff. So great answers to potentially things like mech-related warriors, certainly hunters. Even we've seen some like token druids in the past with mechs. And this would be a great card to just slam and answer those. And since it has taunt, even if they don't have like a Ziliax on board, the fact that it's going to have taunt means you're just playing a big taunted minion that they have to deal with as well. So I think this would be a cool answer to those mech dominant strategies. It does come fairly late in the game, so it wouldn't be like this cure-all against, say, an aggressive mech hunter deck, but it could be a late game stabilization tool or a counter pressure threat in a lot of ways. And since that's been such a dominant strategy lately, I think it'd be pretty nice for a card like this to exist. And there you go, folks. That wraps it up for my 10 tech cards part 1, but there is going to be a part 2 coming out very soon. And I didn't put my 10 favorite in this video. I tried to split them up, got some legendaries, got some really cool creative stuff in the next video as well, so you won't want to miss that one. They're going to be just as good or better than these. Now, I know you're also wondering about the next custom card theme, and you'll be able to find all the details for that in the description below. But essentially, I want you to do something a little different this time. I want you to take a card from Saviors of Uldum. So a real card, and I want you to tweak it for me. I want you to change it in some way that you think would make it better, more interesting, more fun, more balanced. So that could include nerfing it. That could include buffing it. That might be changing the name. If you think the name sucks, like change the name, tweak some stats to make that really interesting. But do something significant to the card that makes it worthwhile for me to talk about, changes it in a way that's going to make it healthier for the game. Don't just like lower the mana cost by 1, right? Like that's probably not going to be very exciting for me. Do something pretty cool with it. Maybe keep the art the same, keep the name close enough that we'll know what it is, right? But tweak it in a way that just makes it better from a design standpoint or from a balance standpoint. Again, I'm going to put those details in the description below if you want to find a link to submit your card or read more about what I mean. That's all going to be down there. But until then, thank you so very much for watching. And until next time, game on.